and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. The theme of our show is raising the awareness and consciousness in the relationship with wealth and applying unconditional love. Wealth is the ability to fully experience life by Henry David Thoreau. Just another reminder, the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Don't take things personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own dream or illusion. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply just do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Tonight we're focusing on the mindfulness of love and healthiness, and we have a local success story on our show. Our special guest this evening is Dr. Neil Kobrin. This is the first segment of our 2-part discussion with Neil. Dr. Neil Kobrin, PhD, is a licensed clinical psychologist from UC Berkeley and his LCSW and MFT with decades of experience in human transformation and emotional well-being. He is the author of the book, Emotional Well-Being, Embracing the Gift of Life, and is the founder and president of the Academy of Mindful Psychology. He is an international workshop leader and in mindfulness and emotional health. Shortly thereafter, he assumed the role of president and CEO of California Graduate School of Psychology. Dr. Kobrin rebuilt and rejuvenated the institution, eventually merged the School of American Schools of Psychology and National Set of Graduate Schools of Psychology. Dr. Kobrin actively continues to augment his knowledge of mindfulness and Buddhist psychology. In addition to attending dozens of trainings throughout the U.S., led by foremost leaders in the subject area, he is a member of the Spirit Rock Meditation Center's Sangha and continues to study with world-renowned teachers such as Jack Kornfield and other Teachers Council, as well as distinguished visiting teachers. He has trained and facilitated workshops with Zen Master Genpo Roshi, training facilitators from all over the world in the big mind process. Dr. Kobrin plays an active role in the Academy of Mindful Psychology, an organization designed to provide education and training in mindfulness and psychology. He maintains a private clinical practice in Marin, California. This is the first segment of our 2-part discussion with Neil. Welcome, Neil.
Well, thank you.
I'm really happy that you are joining us tonight. We have had several communications in passing in the media center, and you're a local media person and also author. And I thought, it's time to have you on our show.
Well, it's about time.
So thank you. Thank
You're very
you.
welcome. I'm very happy to be here.
I've pretty much already given your bio and background, but I know we could dig a lot deeper and get into some more fun stuff of what you're doing.
Sure.
And so I know you're from New York.
I am.
And so tell me about how you got into psychology.
Well, that's an interesting story, actually. I went to school in Brooklyn, so I was raised in New York City. And my freshman year, I was a business major because I didn't quite know what I was supposed to be doing. My father was an accountant. And it was so unbelievably boring. I mean, the people that were in this program, it's just like, oh, please take a breath, have a pulse. So I thought to myself, where are there some dynamic people? And where are all the pretty girls? You know, obviously, it's a motivation when you're, you know, freshman in college. And it turned out I took a psychology class.
Oh, okay.
And I was always oriented that way anyhow, but that really
To dig deeper into.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I've been a psychologist in my family since I was 2 years old,
I
youngest
relate.
of three, and that whole deal. But I just took to it, and I was passionate about it. And from that, you know, I figured out once I had 27 years of education. It's a lot of years,
Well,
you know, all
not
the way
only-
through to my PhD, and
But
you know.
also just your experiential education as well as your
Oh yeah,
academic.
you can tack another 30 years on that, but that's as far
You're
as
not
we're
that
going.
old.
That's as far as
Yeah,
we
no,
go.
Well, you take care of it, boy. You're
So,
looking pretty good for
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. So no, really, I've just always been very passionate about it. You know, what makes us tick, and you know, how is it that feelings come up the way they come up, and why are some people this way and other people that way? And I was, you know, a student of it all my life, really.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can understand, except that I went towards more the financial part, and probably because I got involved with my family's business. But then I never felt there's always something missing. But I knew that I was preparing myself.
And here you are.
The whole time I was preparing. I knew that, why am I doing this boring stuff? But I was also challenging my brain to get into the complicated stuff. But you know, preparing yourself, just like you've been preparing yourself for what you're doing, and you're an author now, and emotional well-being, embracing the gift, and I already blessed our viewers
All
with.
Isn't that a beautiful cover?
Yes, it
There's
is.
a story to that cover, you know.
Oh well, tell us the story of that cover, since we're talking about it.
Well, you know, the book is titled Emotional Well-Being, Embracing the Gift of Life. And this is really a book about how miraculous life is, and how so many of us we don't really value and appreciate what an incredible gift it is. And the story is a story about the rarity of life. And interestingly enough, there was just a scientific study done 2 weeks ago. I put it on my website, Academy of Mindful Psychology, for people that are interested, where they determined the probability of being born.
Interesting.
The probability of being
So
born.
what does that mean?
What it means is it's astronomical, the odds that any of us have ever been born. And why I tell you this is
We're all
that
miracles.
we are all miracles, absolutely. And there's a story, I think it comes out of the Buddhist tradition, or it could be the Hindu tradition. And the story is of a blind sea turtle, there we are, roaming an ocean the size of the universe. And once every 100 years, it surfaces to the top. And the rarity of birth is as if that turtle emerges through a ring bobbing on the top of the ocean. That's how unique and special life is. The odds of that kind of event occurring.
Now, is that a metaphor, or is that?
It's a metaphor, of course.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
a metaphor. So I thought, what better
Right.
depiction to really talk about,
That's
you know,
sweet.
this gift.
No, that's very sweet.
And then, of course, my son did the art. I have a 21-year-old who's a brilliant artist.
Well, that means a lot.
Jake Kobrin, and he is fantastic.
Yes,
So,
yes. So how did you come up with, I know I preempted this by saying, because I talk about wealth, but if we don't have wealth, and this is where the transformation comes in, if we don't have wealth in our relationships, there really is, to me, there's nothing else that matters.
Absolutely.
When it really comes down to
Right.
it. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, is because, you know, emotional well-being. How did you come up with that? And also, I don't want to give you too many questions at once, but it's like mindful psychology. So let's start at the,
All
at the
right.
you know.
All right. So it's interesting, you know, if we don't have wealth in our relationships, X, Y, and Z. I'll go one step further. If we don't have wealth in our relationship with ourselves, then we have nothing.
Absolutely. That's the first and foremost.
You know, it's an inside job.
Yes.
That's what I like to say.
And you know, I'm sure you've observed this in so many, all the way out there, is that women are emerging in that, I mean, all over the world. They're
Absolutely.
emerging with that relationship with themselves.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's like the pendulum. It's probably, you know, going.
Oh no, it is swinging.
But it's swinging.
Yeah,
It's swinging. Now it'll be nice because, you know, men also can become more, use their feminine side too.
Definitely.
In this whole process. So it's very interesting.
Definitely. I think there's a tremendous movement, and frankly, I'll say thank God for the internet. You know, I line up just the opposite way when everybody's talking about, you know, all the potential pitfalls, and they exist. The reality is the internet ultimately connects the entire universe.
Yes.
You know, I'll get to mindful psychology in just a second, but I want to tell you a story if you don't mind.
Oh, please. That's why we're here.
So the Tower of Bevel, biblical story, is a
Right.
very, very interesting story. I don't know if you know it. Some people do, some people don't.
I've heard of it, but I don't know the details.
Well, basically what occurred is that the tribes in the middle of, you know, the desert were really upset because they had a very arduous life. You know, dwelling in the desert is not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. And they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, and they got very frustrated that their prayers were not answered. So they did something that had never been done before. They came together, and collectively they decided they were going to build a tower way up into the heavens, and they were going to climb this tower. And at the top of the tower, they were going to confront God face to face and basically say, why aren't you listening to us? Why aren't you helping us?
Yes.
So they got together and they
If there
built,
is a God.
well, they believed.
Yeah.
So they climbed this tower, they built this tower, they spent years, you know, constructing this massive edifice. And just as they were about to ascend into the heavens, God appears in fury, and he smashes the tower to thousands and thousands of pieces.
How dare you question me?
Exactly. How dare you question me? And he said, every piece of this tower will represent a different language. So you'll never be able to talk to one another again and do anything as outrageous as you've just done. That's the story.
I just got goosebumps.
Oh,
on
you
that.
should. Because how powerful is that story?
That is extremely powerful.
And now what do we have? Now we have the internet.
Yeah.
And you know what the internet does? It allows me to talk to China. It allows my son to talk to Spain.
Right.
It's connecting the world in a way where we have to understand we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
This us and them, it's an illusion.
And it's demonstration. Now, if people can emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically embrace that and appreciate that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be the true revolution.
Yes.
I mean, once that
And
occurs.
we're part of this
That's right.
movement revolution.
right.
It's true.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Right.
I always give thanks.
All right, great.
So, but the mindful, you know, I know there's a lot of spiritual things in here in your book, but mindful psychology. So tell us how, you know, that.
You know, I started writing an article the other day, and this article was written to psychologists, psychotherapists, and it starts by saying, we are not mindful. So mindful psychology is an integration of a long spiritual practice known as mindfulness, now 2,600 years, basically comes from Buddhist philosophy,
Right.
with traditional psychology. And what I mean by traditional, I'm talking about Eastern and Western psychology. So one day in the shower, it came to me. It's time. It's time that psychology becomes mindful. Now, what's interesting about mindfulness is about awareness.
Absolutely.
It's about higher consciousness. It's about stepping back and observing instead of reacting. It's about being fully present in the moment.
In a higher frequency.
In a higher frequency, absolutely. Cheryl, this is it, right? What's going on between us is all there is that could be going on. This moment is all we have.
Yes.
And mindful psychology takes the teachings of mindfulness and it integrates it with neuroscience. I mean, it's amazing what we're learning in neuroscience. It integrates it with...
When you're explain that just a little bit. I'm going to break this down just a little bit,
Sure.
so our viewers can maybe understand. You know, the neuroscience of the mindfulness.
Okay, so I'll tell you a very interesting dynamic. There's so much to say about neuroscience, but I'll give you a little taste. So years ago, they had in a lab, they had 2 monkeys. And the monkeys were wired up because they were looking at their brain activity. And they took a peanut, and they gave it to a monkey. And they said, "Here, monkey, here's a peanut." And the monkey started to eat the peanut, and they watched what was happening in the brain of that monkey. Well, what they didn't anticipate was what was happening in the monkey that was watching the monkey eat the peanut. You know what was happening? Exactly the same level of activity. Now think about this.
Yeah.
We've got one monkey watching another monkey eat. The brain goes into whatever...
The 100 monkeys.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
That was
That's
the second
right.
monkey, but
That's
the 100
right.
monkeys.
But the ramifications of this are staggering because what it says is what we attend to absolutely influences our brain. How our
You mean
brain
our
functions.
Attention to.
Absolutely.
Yes, and you say intend to, our intentions.
Well, intentions, but I'm talking about what we attend, what we see, what we focus on.
Right, exactly.
Affects the way our brain functions.
Yes.
I mean, it's very, very powerful. You're going to sit and watch CNN for 12 hours? Your brain is going to live, you know, the amygdala is the brain center for fear. And that's exactly what's going to get stimulated and stimulated. And so what mindful psychology does is it takes the findings of neuroscience, it says, well, how do we apply that to psychology? Well, let me ask you. So if a monkey's brain is stimulated by watching another monkey eat a peanut, what are the ramifications of something like that? Well, how about that we want to pay attention to things that are good for us, that are positive for us, things that are expansive and not contracting.
Absolutely.
Things that allow love and positivity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? As opposed to fear and anger and hatred.
Yes. And that's why, and there's so much on TV that is all fear and anger based.
Absolutely.
And stupidity, actually. I don't know, watch 90+%.
Good.
Because I will not. I won't watch. I know that all these killings and everything are going on, these horrible things, but you know what? I'm not going to put that in my psyche because we have to stay positive in order to keep spreading it.
Absolutely.
And
someone much wiser than me once said, we must post sentinels at the gateway of our mind.
Yep.
It's absolutely true. A sentinel is a soldier.
That's right.
Protect what comes into your mind.
Absolutely.
And we know now there's something that you're probably aware of called neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Most people these days have heard about it. Mm-hmm. When I went to graduate school, I was taught that your brain is fixed, meaning it develops to a point and then it stops. And it started, they said it was done when you were an adolescent. Then they changed and said, no, maybe early 20s, but your brain becomes fixed and that's that, nothing you can do about it.
God bless wonderful Deepak Chopra, because I've studied him for years.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's like one of my most favorite. And listening to him, your mind is always expanding.
Not only is your mind expanding, your brain is constantly changing.
Renewing new cells constantly. Oh my
We have
gosh.
an opportunity at any given moment to create new neural pathways.
Yes.
Right? And don't you want to have positive pathways? Wouldn't you rather attend to things that will allow your life to be more fulfilling?
Oh my gosh, please. I
Well,
wish we want to spread that to the rest of the world.
Watching murder, watching anger, watching hatred, not going to do it.
No, it just
digs us-
perpetuates it.
perpetuates
So
the fear.
I have my gate. I have a gatekeeper,
Good.
whatever, because I will not. I just walk away.
Good.
Anything like that, because I know it's not healthy.
So mindful psychology
And it's not
says,
in denial.
It's not denial.
It's just,
It's not denial.
what's going on.
You know what's going on. We all, there's so
Yeah.
much
Oh,
happening.
too much.
You cannot not know what's going on.
But it's just to protect that precious, because we have that precious, miraculous mind that most of us don't use.
Nor are we trained to use it.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah, no. Are you
You know?
Not in schools, not in religion,
sitting in a
not
class,
in politics, not in government, and they're the biggest ones that need to change anyway. I won't go on there.
You're sitting in a classroom, you're 7 or 8 years old, and the teacher's screaming, "Pay attention!" Does anybody truly teach you how to pay attention?
Yeah.
How to focus?
Well, it all starts at
You know?
home.
Well, it does start at home.
all
And whether you
starts at
call it
home.
meditation or contemplation, you take an 8-year-old and sit them down for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and teach them how to focus. Focus is a fantastic thing calms the body, by the way.
May I share a little experience?
Absolutely.
I was teaching with my daughter's kindergarten class, and I was one of the other teachers. And there was one little boy that he melted my heart, and he was a crack baby.
Yeah.
So one of the practices that I would have him do is sit in the chair. We did this for 5 minutes. I tried to get him to do it for 10 minutes. It didn't quite work 10 minutes. But I got him, and I had him read the alphabet.
Right.
But just focus. But he was so happy when he finished that 5 minutes.
Right.
And I would keep, I kept getting more and more, but I thought, this is wonderful. I mean, for us as human beings, that's why I meditate every day. Meditate.
Same difference. But it's interesting, read the alphabet. I mean, reading the alphabet is no different than having a mantra.
Yes, exactly.
A mantra is just an opportunity to focus. I mean, in classic meditation, you focus on your breath. First of all, breathing is the best thing for us.
Absolutely.
And you know what? You're going to love this.
That's in every one of your chapters. It starts out at the very end. Breathe.
Nobody teaches us how to breathe. You think it's natural? You're a woman. Is it natural to have a baby? How natural was your?
Well, if nobody can prepare you for that. Oh my goodness.
But
especially when you had 40 hours of labor.
We breathe through our chest. Our chest contracts us. It puts us in our sympathetic nervous system, which is a tension-filled nervous system, as opposed to our parasympathetic nervous system, which puts the brakes on anxiety, puts the brakes on tension. We need to breathe through our diaphragm. We need to expand our stomachs and take the air in, hold it, and then release it. This is not about some foreign concept and philosophy about meditation. This is breath, life's breath.
It's a daily, it's actually a minute when you think about it, a moment experience like you do getting dressed.
Absolutely.
Taking a bath or taking a shower, eating. It's the same thing as paying attention. Right. Again, paying attention to the breath, to whatever.
We have
meditate.
To continually find ways to move us into a centered place.
I used to use a candle.
Candles are great.
When I first started, I needed something, because to me, candle represented God's fire. What is burning? It's
burning
God.
bush, right?
It's God's spirit, universe. Right. That's how did that happen?
How
You
did
know,
that happen,
so that's
right.
what I used to focus on. I haven't done that for a while because I've used many different kinds, but it's so important,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And then to be able to block out the negative junk that's going on out there, especially now,
Right.
you know,
We're
all over.
bombarded. You know, think about this. Think about life 100 years ago. 100 years is nothing. Nothing.
That's when my grandmother was
Yeah, absolutely.
having a joy day, actually.
But just think about the amount of stimulation that existed in a single day 100 years ago.
Not like it is
Just
today.
100 years ago compared to now.
Oh my goodness, you can't even, I mean, it's overwhelming.
We're bombarded. And our brain has to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And what it does is it rattles us.
And I can see how people can go shut down on some level because they can't handle that stimulation, but there again, when you have that meditative way of blocking out the negative stuff, it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. And you know, you don't even have to
See,
meditate. Take a walk in the woods.
Yeah, well, that's a meditation. It's a
Of
form.
course it is.
There's hundreds of
Absolutely.
forms of meditation.
That's exactly right. That's
Watching
exactly
the
right.
ocean.
Watching the ocean.
I mean, that's
Watching a sunset.
Yeah, you know, that's beautiful. Being in nature, smelling a flower. You know.
Committing yourself on a daily basis to be as fully present as possible. Waking up in the morning and saying, I am going to pay attention today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless
Thank
you
you.
for being here.
Oh, bless you for
And
having me.
sharing all your wonderful information. Emotional well-being, embracing life, the gift
The
of
gift
life.
of life. There you go.
I'll leave you with this. Never give up wherever you are and what you're doing in your life. Work with integrity and have a positive attitude, first and foremost with your family and friends. First, be aware and conscious of your thoughts and catch yourself before they come out of your mouth, especially the negative thoughts. It takes mental discipline. Be grateful for whose you are and where you have come from and what you have, and be grateful for your freedom. And eat healthy. Good nutrition feeds the mind and your body temple. Don't forget to exercise. Feed your spirituality with meditation and prayer. Thank God. With unconditional love, love yourself unconditionally. Stop criticizing, stop judging, and allowing others to dominate the way you feel, and think about yourself. Be compassionate and share your abundance and wealth with others. When fear knocks, let faith answer the door. Thank you, Marin TV, for facilitating our show, and especially to my crew, Eric, Brad, Jack, and Mary. Thank you. Please support and become a member of Marin TV. Bye for now. Until next time.